Welcome back to MovieRats. If you guys love Squid Game and its surprising turns, then you know that there's always more to something than what lies above the surface. In today's video, we are diving into the hidden details of Squid Game Season 2. We're breaking down the top 5 hidden gems in this season, from small changes with characters to deep Easter eggs. Now go grab some popcorn and let's get into these little things that make Squid Game even creepier than you thought. Among all the striking and iconic symbols in the game, the mask of Frontman stands out. In Season 1, his mask was sleek with its sharp angular lines and black color symbolizing mystery, authority, and intimidation. In Season 2, however, there is a nuance where there is a change in the design. It still carries the same ominous look, but it has been refined, polished, and fully defined. These changes are not merely cosmetic, but reflect the increasing influence and power of the frontman in the game. The sharper features and angular shape of the mask thus symbolize the increased role that was his as the supreme authority above brutal competition. The mask itself typifies an incarnation of him and his control over the players and the games. A shift in design that can be quite small speaks volumes about the arc of character in Season 2, where he was no longer the puppet master, but a downright domineering figure. In the series, the mask also symbolizes the dehumanizing aspects of the games. The show has amplified the cold, robotic nature of the frontman, who's now totally consumed by his role as a mastermind, almost devoid of human elements. The evolution of the mask is a subtle but powerful visual cue to the darker path ahead. In Squid Game Season 2, the VIPs introduced a new layer of mystery that makes the twisted games they already play much more complex. High-status people bring about an attitude of arrogance and distance, watching the games from a lavish playground. However, few viewers will realize that at times, there are a few hints of a stronger connection between Player 001 in Season 1 and the new VIPs. The mastermind behind the game was actually a player, designated as Player 001, and was known to be Oil Nam. His motives, as well as his involvement in making Squid Game, hinted towards a much greater network of individuals involved in running the operation. Season 2 subtly suggests that the VIPs may not only be rich thrill seekers, but also some people who form the foundation or have a link to the foundation of the game, like Player 001. The VIPs' mannerisms, speech, and general conduct bear striking resemblance to how Player 001 was when he interacted with Gi-hun in Season 1. They see the games as entertainment as well, the same way that Player 001, under the facade of being kind, treated the players as pieces on a chessboard. This connection gives an idea that the VIPs may be from previous versions of the game where they were players or benefactors, so this connection has a chilling feel about it, connecting them to the original architect. While the concept of Ganbu, or the deep bond of trust and partnership between players, was only a one-off from Season 1, think again. In Season 2, the theme of Ganbu returns, but this time in a much darker and more complex way. For those who need a refresher, Ganbu first became emotionally significant when Gi-hun and Ali formed an alliance during the games, which ended in devastating betrayal. Season 2 keeps building up upon this theme: trust, loyalty, and that harsh reality that survival forces within people. For Ganbu, it means not only friendship this time around, it's how much friendship was tested with others in the new world, all of whom came out with ulterior motives about survival. Indeed, there was a whole gamut of tests for such alliance under extreme conditions, but bonding was done forthwith. Such an emotional price does betrayal bring about, especially at the level that players face concerning helping others but also staying alive. Season 2 has much more of a cynical approach toward Ganbu. Even the characters who so desperately want connections are learning fast enough how those relationships mean nothing in this world of Squid Game. Ganbu's return doesn't only speak to the emotional depth of the game, but to the tragic cycle of trust and betrayal in which alliances break down in a desperate fight to survive. Loyalty is as fragile as their lives in Squid Game. On the surface, the red light, green light game appears to be a dreadful yet rather simplistic children's game. However, in Seasons 1 and 2, it transcends that, becoming something much more significant. In Season 1, we saw the brutal stakes of the game, the tension building as players tried to move forward while avoiding the deadly gaze of the giant doll. But in Season 2, red light, green light goes to a psychological level. In this season, the rules don't change much. They still have to move forward on the green light and freeze on the red light. It has now turned into a game of mental endurance. The players are already exhausted by the horrors of the games that they have already survived, and this game forces them to confront not only their physical limits, but also their growing paranoia. Every movement becomes a calculated risk, and each stop feels like an eternity as they're faced with the anxiety of being eliminated. But here is where it gets interesting. The pace of this game, and those moments in slow motion, as well as the scarily silent moments between each round, emphasize how it is times itself that becomes a weapon. The game is not about moving forward, it is about surviving the mental exhaustion and tension. As the game gets more intense, it mirrors the mental breakdown the players go through because of weighing in on their survivability. In Season 2, red light, green light is a danger that transcends the physical kind. It represents a psychological snare where fear of failure and fear of being betrayed come hand in hand, and finally, the deepest fear of death. Okay, so let's discuss the climax, the last scene of Season 2. Now that looks like the most resolved ending for all viewers. However, with Squid Game, you should never look for anything on the surface. It's a deep show, and the final scene isn't an exception. If you closely observe it, there are several hidden clues indicating what might happen next. The future seasons would be established in such a way that only keen viewers will catch them. Perhaps one of the most interesting details is in the visual composition of the scene. Sometimes certain characters are placed in very strategic positions, their subtle facial expressions hinting at a more detailed development. And of course, the objects in the background are intelligently placed to give some small clue on where the game's next evolution might take us, like when the camera lingers over certain props and sometimes the characters. These seemingly mundane details are deliberately placed to build some anticipation for a new chapter in the Squid Game saga. Additionally, the final scene introduces key shifts in the power dynamic of the game. We witness the emergence of new players, new alliances, and a reconfiguration of the game's rules, all hidden in the final moments through brief, almost imperceptible hints. It's a masterclass in storytelling, leaving enough breadcrumbs for fans to speculate wildly, but withholding just enough to keep us on the edge of our seats. That's it for our breakdown of the top 5 missed details in Squid Game Season 2. Did you catch any of these clues? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more from MovieRats. See you next time.